Number one, okay, person facing foreclosure, like what are the options, what is common mistakes, and maybe some examples from the clients you guys handled where, you being able to help, but if person didn't know, they would like have nothing, or maybe they like lose the
Right.
house.
Well, there's different stages of foreclosure. First and foremost, if you are facing a notice of default, which is typically called an NOD, that basically alerts you that you are behind on your payments and you have to do something about either curing the default, meaning pay your lender, or you can exercise options such as a bankruptcy. So people sometimes don't know or are not aware of the fact that a bankruptcy, because it's governed under the highest court, the federal court, it actually has the power to stop any sale of a property, and it stops
But then
creditors.
I lose the house
No.
due to bankruptcy.
So if you decide to do a bankruptcy, what they do is they have different chapters. So depending on limits, that's how the chapters are, assigned to your individual case. So there's different chapters. There's a 7, which is usually liquidation of assets, which typically if you're in a foreclosure, you don't want to file a 7 because you probably have too many assets that are going to make you sell to take care of your creditors or whoever you're owing money to. And then there's this 13, which reorganizes debt, which means that if you are owing, $50,000 in arrears on your mortgage payment, what they'll do is they'll take that payment and you're assigned a trustee at at the higher court, at the federal court. The trustee will then look at all your expenses. They usually bundle them into an account in which you are allowed to catch up monthly. Meanwhile, they kind of put a hold on all of the other debt until you're kind of able to catch up. So they'll put you on a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan. Meanwhile, your foreclosure is on a pause. So if you file a bankruptcy, you will be able to maintain your asset. You won't lose your house. So that's option number 1 on a pre-foreclosure. Now, again, we can get into all the different chapters in a bankruptcy, but it would take me, hours to explain every single one and what each of those do. So there's a, 7, there's an 11, there's a 13. But most people in a foreclosure will focus on a 13 if they want to keep their house because they want to reorganize debt and have the chance to catch up and stay in their house. So moving on to now the foreclosure process. If you don't want to file bankruptcy, people are terrified of a bankruptcy for whatever reason. They feel it's going to mess up their credit for 7 years or what have you. So to avoid a bankruptcy, they will try to look into other options. The only other option really you have is to either come up with the money and pay your lender completely, or get into a modification with your lender. Lenders also offer different options to allow you to reorganize the debt with the lender itself, and then you catch up your payments or they tag it to the end of the mortgage. So options for pre-foreclosure are available, but you would have to know which one you want to, number one, do and qualify for, because you have to qualify as well. So then you deal with the post-foreclosure aspect of a property if it's being taken from you and you get as far as a notice of sale. Typically at that point, you're down to the end. You only have notice of sale only gives you about 21 days. If you got as far as a notice of sale with your lender, the notice of sale will only allow you to pay up, stop the foreclosure through a bankruptcy. And if you're already at a post-foreclosure, in other words, they already took it to the bank, the bank took it to the court steps, they sold it. At that point, you will have no other option but to move out of your home. There is no redemption period in a foreclosure. People tend to believe that there's a redemption. In California, there's not. Once they foreclose, it's done. Even if your bank took it back, you are not able to get that house
how like an attorney can help in this situation? What can they do?
Many homeowners deal with a wrongful foreclosure, such as that maybe your lender did not provide you with proper notice. For example, they never mailed you a notice of default, or they never notified you that you had a sale date coming. And so there's a lot of different aspects of notices that you're not provided with sometimes by your lender, or options, which can constitute a wrongful foreclosure. So for that, the attorney would have to look into, review, that sale, and, make sure that it was actually properly notified, that you were giving all the proper notices. And then we work into litigation or try to settle with your lender about getting the house back, or, in lieu of litigation
How
against
much
your
it will
lender.
cost me to work with you guys if I
So the
come to your
attorney
firm? Yeah.
takes post foreclosure litigation cases on contingency basis, as long as it's done usually within 30 days post sale. Post sale meaning after the sale. So if your house sold on March 1st, we'll usually typically take your case on contingency, and we charge a third of anything we negotiate or collect on your behalf. And that could be from either an overage that came from the sale of the property, or some sort of negotiation with your lender. If they wronged you and we are able to get you 150,000 in damages, or 100,000, then we would take a percentage of that with no upfront costs paid to the attorney. But most people, if they come in and they say, well, I want to sue my bank, I already collected an overage, or I didn't get an overage, but I was wronged, then at that point, there's a good chance the attorney will ask for some kind of a retainer if you want them to go straight into litigation, because litigation is very expensive and it's very time consuming. So it all really depends at what stage of the foreclosure you hire the attorney. But in most cases, we can do the case if the attorney takes it on contingency, meaning no upfront costs.
Yeah, give me some examples, like some client with, like, you help guys somebody, and like just like example of case.
Sure. So
Like-
one recent case is a elder woman. She was about 78 years old. Well, she's still alive. Lives in Glendale. And a gentleman befriended her and said, hey, I can help you refinance your house. You're in foreclosure. She was looking at a tax document, which she didn't understand, and she was behind on her taxes, and she thought she was in foreclosure. So the gentleman came and lied to her and said, hey, Anne, you're in foreclosure, you're going to lose your house. So she immediately believed that what he was saying, and she panicked. She said, I can't afford to refinance my house. So he said, I'll help you. I'm gonna add my name to title because I have a business, and I'm gonna help you refinance this house so you can qualify. And beware, don't ever add anybody to your title, because there's a good chance they're basically equal owners when you're adding them to your title. So without knowing, the guy knew what he was doing. He was taking advantage of her. So she contacted our firm after she found out that she had been taken off her title completely. And we filed a lis pendens on her house, filed a lawsuit immediately against the gentleman. And because he knew that he had done wrong and there was already a police report and everything else, he just didn't show up to court. So we won by judgment. It was a pretty quick case. He never responded. He didn't show his face to court. So we won the case for her. So we were able to overturn that, it was basically a wrongful sale, not necessarily a foreclosure, but that's an example of fraud, on title. And there's a lot of that going on even with younger people, they don't
Give
know.
me example, let's say, how your firm, like house was foreclosed and then was sold, but then there were some unclaimed funds, and you were able, as attorneys, as a professionals, take a look, and because of you, you were able to get like 200,000 or whatever.
Right. So in California, as in many other states, every state has different law when it comes to post foreclosure. But again, if your house is sold in a public sale tomorrow, they sell this building, and you owe 200,000 on this building, and all of a sudden, you have the new owner knocking on your door going, hey, I bought your house at the auction and I own it. You got to get out of here. You're dealing with that, but in the same token, you're thinking, oh my God, they just foreclosed on me and I have nothing. I lost everything. I lost my house. I have no money. And what happens in a situation like that is anything, and many homeowners don't know, anything above the amount that you are owing to your lender is money that's yours. Just like when you go and sell a property on a market. If you owe $100,000 and you sell it for $200,000, you have $100,000 of proceeds. Exact same thing happens in a foreclosure sale. If your property is sold for more than what you're owing your lender, that difference is yours. Now, the tricky part is, like in any case, if you go to litigation, you can represent yourself. Yes, you can do that, but it's a lot of work and it's tricky. It's not that simple. So people don't know how to do it where it's simple enough where they're not going to end up dragged into court by your trustee. So to avoid the lengthy wait, you hire an attorney such as our firm, where we make a claim on your funds, and we usually get those funds to you pretty quickly, 2 to 3 months. If you wait and fight it on your own, you might make mistakes, which are going to make the trustee deposit the funds with the court, and now you're going to have to go to, through a litigation process that's called interpleader action. So what that does is it forces you into court to get your funds. And again, at that point, you're going to be forced to probably hire an attorney because now you're in court and you're in litigation. So it's it's a very tricky, lengthy process. But if you have an attorney such as our service, we can make it, swiftly and quickly, where it's just negotiated. We know what they want and we know how to present the proper documentation to be able to get your funds quickly, and you don't have to go through a process of court. So that's how we can help. We can basically bring your funds to you sooner so you don't have to wait. And again, there might be other fees that you owe, such as taxes, or if you were, behind with a lien, or somebody filed a judgment against you for $10,000, it's going to be paid through those proceeds because it's a public record. So usually that's where, our services help you versus you trying to do it on your own.
Okay, enough.